He was the weakest hunter in the world. Then the tower gave him a skill that copies a power from anyone who kills him. He stole time itself from the man who murdered him, and died 4,091 times to rewind 11 years into the past. His mission? Kill Yu Su-ha, the quiet young man who will one day become the Flame Emperor, the strongest and cruelest hunter alive. But first, Gong-ja needed power. So he provoked the current number one, the legendary swordsman Marcus Callenbury, into executing him. He expected to copy a divine sword skill. Instead, he got an A+ card, and something extra. A voice in his empty room, a shadow that shouldn't exist. Something had followed him back from death. This is where the real story begins. Gong-ja's first thought was simple. 4,000 deaths had finally broken his brain, because floating in the middle of his one-room apartment was a man, translucent, red-haired, dressed in robes from another century, and talking, very, very loudly. No one else could ever see him. No camera could record him. As far as the world was concerned, this man did not exist. The ghost introduced himself with absolutely zero modesty. The Sword Emperor, the greatest swordsman of another world, a living legend who entered the tower and cut his way up, floor after floor, alone. 99 floors. Read that again. The tower has 100. This man fought to the very doorstep of the top, higher than any human in recorded history, and there, one floor from the end, he died. But the tower doesn't waste legends. His soul was sealed into a skill card, Sword Constellation, A+ rank, the exact card Gong-ja had just copied from Marcus Callenbury. And suddenly, the world's biggest mystery solved itself. This was Marcus's secret. The reason the number one hunter talks to himself. The reason his swordsmanship looks inhuman. He wasn't crazy. For decades, he's had the greatest swordmaster in existence whispering in his ear. And now, there were two copies of that ghost. One with Marcus, one standing in a moldy basement apartment staring at an unemployed F rank in torn sweatpants. The ghost looked around the room, at the instant noodle cups, at the cracked walls, at Gong-ja, and said exactly what he thought. I refuse. Why would a legend waste his afterlife teaching a nobody with zero talent, zero money, and a haircut that looked like a crime scene? He'd rather float in silence for eternity. So Gong-ja smiled, that cold, patient smile of a man who died 4,000 times and got up 4,001, and he made the ghost an offer no swordmaster in history had ever heard before. Teach me anything. Push me past every limit. Use every forbidden technique that would kill a normal student. A pause. Because I can't die. The Sword Emperor went silent. For the first time in decades, the dead legend smiled. Every master's nightmare is breaking their student. But a student who respawns? That's not a student. That's a blank check. The training began the next morning, and it began with poison. Aura. The energy that separates real hunters from cannon fodder. Most hunters need years of careful practice to awaken it. Force it too fast, and your energy channels tear apart. Hunters who rush aura end up half paralyzed for life. Potions can't fix it. Nothing can. The Sword Emperor's training plan? Chug aura elixirs like water. Force the channels open. Let the body rip itself apart. Die screaming. And then wake up yesterday, with the progress still carved into his soul. Because here's the terrifying loophole the ghost figured out immediately. The body resets. The memory doesn't. Muscle can be rebuilt in a day. Experience is forever. So Gong-ja drank, and burned, and died, and drank again. What takes normal hunters years of gentle meditation, he brute forced through a revolving door of agony. Then came the field test. The tower's third floor. Orcs. Walking mountains of muscle. Simple attack patterns, devastating power, skin like leather armor. The kind of monster that turns overconfident hunters into a stain. In other words, the perfect training dummy. If the dummy is you. The Sword Emperor's teaching method had exactly 3 steps. Dodge or die. Channel your aura or die. Learn or die. There was no step 4. Gong-ja died. A lot. Axe to the chest. Axe to the everything. And every time, the world rewound 24 hours, and the lesson resumed mid-sentence. The ghost didn't even stop talking. The Sword Emperor hid the deadly parts of the training on purpose. Why warn a student about a lethal mistake when the mistake itself is the fastest teacher? Gong-ja called it psychotic. The ghost called it efficient curriculum design. Days blurred into loops, loops into weeks. His footwork sharpened. His aura stopped flickering and started obeying. The garbage F-rank body was still garbage, but the mind inside it was becoming something the tower had never seen, a swordsman with infinite attempts. And then, mid-training, came the discovery that broke the entire game wide open. An orc killed him. Standard Tuesday. But when he woke up, a new card was waiting. Copied. From the orc. Monsters have skills. And his ability doesn't care who the killer is. Every beast, every boss, every horror in this 100-floor tower just became a walking skill vault with his name on it. Weeks of deaths later, the impossible stood on the 3rd floor, an F-rank nobody wrapped in visible aura, cutting down orcs like a veteran. Hunters watch aura users the way normal people watch Olympic athletes, and this one trained for it by dying. Now, about the relationship between the student and the dead legend. It was not a beautiful master-disciple bond. It was a non-stop verbal knife fight. The ghost mocked his talent, his face, his apartment, his life choices. Gong-ja mocked the ghost's ego, his ancient fashion sense, and the fact that a legend was now homeless and haunting a basement. They deserved each other. So naturally, it escalated into a bet. The target, the tower's 10th floor. A cursed stage with a perfect record, 100% failure. Just weeks earlier, 2 of the world's top 10 hunters had marched in publicly, and marched back out humiliated. The entire community agreed. Floor 10 is unbeatable. The terms. Gong-ja clears Floor 10, solo. And the legendary Sword Emperor, the man who conquered 99 floors, addresses him as Sir Gong-ja for the rest of eternity. The ghost laughed for a solid minute, then shook on it. Easiest bet of his afterlife. An E rank beating the floor that broke the elites? Impossible. He was about to learn that impossible is just a word people use before Gong-ja shows up. Floor 10 wasn't a battlefield. No monsters at the gate. No army. Just a house. An old mansion, sitting alone in a sea of gray fog. Elegant. Silent. Wrong. Every hunter who walked through its doors came back broken. The ones who came back at all. Gong-ja talked his way past the doorkeeper with a completely fabricated sob story, the ghost quietly noting that the kid's real S-rank skill might be lying, and stepped inside. The door closed itself behind him, and the house noticed him. Dolls. Hundreds of porcelain dolls. On the shelves, on the stairs, on every chair, and every single glass eye was pointed at him. Then, in the candlelight, they spoke. Play with us. Every hunter instinct on the planet screams the same answer to that sentence. Burn everything. Sword out. Fire spells up. Purge the haunted house. That's exactly what the elite hunters tried, which is exactly why they failed. The mansion answers violence, with hellfire. The moment steel touched porcelain, the entire house became a furnace. Gong-ja, like every hunter before him, burned alive in seconds. He woke up 24 hours earlier with 2 new things. First, a copied skill from the flames, a firework card, useful. Second, a penalty. His copied regression skill has a hidden cost. The higher the rank of what killed him, the deeper he's dragged into its memories. And this time, the memory that flooded his mind wasn't fire. It was a person, a woman, alive, once, betrayed by the people she trusted, locked in this house, burned in it, and bound to it forever, her rage becoming the hellfire, her loneliness becoming the dolls, the hellfire maiden. The dolls weren't monsters. They were the only friends a murdered woman could make for herself in an empty, burning eternity. Play with us was never a threat. It was a plea. And Gong-ja, the orphan nobody wanted, the F rank everyone stepped over, the man who spent 11 years watching the world celebrate everyone but him, understood her instantly, completely, painfully. So on the next loop, he walked into the deadliest floor in the tower and left his weapon at the door. He greeted the dolls, by name, where they whispered them. He patted every porcelain head. He sat down and played. Room after room, hour after hour. The ghost floated behind him in absolute silence, a swordsman watching a battle won without a single swing. In the basement, among 1,000 candles, she was waiting. The Hellfire Maiden, the curse no blade, no spell, no top-ranked hunter could break. Gong-ja didn't fight her, he kept her company. And the woman who burned the strongest warriors of an entire world simply let go. She smiled. She whispered, "Thank you." And she dissolved, not into ash, but into light. And then the sky above the entire tower exploded. Floor 10, cleared. The stage with a 100% failure rate. The wall that humiliated the world's elite. Solved by an E rank, with 0 kills, 0 spells, and 1 act of kindness. Somewhere in the fog, a legendary ghost quietly paid his debt. Through gritted, ghostly teeth and a voice full of hate, Sir Gong-ja. He would regret that bet for eternity. And then the world lost its collective mind. Every hunter forum, every news channel, every guild war room. One question: who cleared floor 10? No guild claimed it. No name appeared on any roster. A ghost story of their own. An anonymous nobody had just rewritten the record books. The strongest hunters alive stopped what they were doing and started hunting for him. The great guilds wanted to sign him. The rankers wanted to test him. And some just wanted to know what kind of monster solves the unsolvable. Gong-ja, meanwhile, wanted a coffee. He had no idea that the most dangerous people on the planet were already closing in on one shabby young man with a dead legend floating over his shoulder. But far away from the noise, the cameras, and the manhunt, a clock was ticking. In a cheap apartment, a quiet, ordinary young man was living his last unremarkable weeks. His name is Yu Su-ha, and with every sunrise, he is one day closer to the summer morning when the Flame Emperor wakes up. 11 years of humiliation, 4,091 deaths. All of it comes down to reaching that man first. Can a dead legend forge the world's weakest hunter into a killer before the monster is born? And what happens when the top hunters of the world finally corner him? Part 3 is already in the works. Subscribe and drop a like. Every like pushes this story to more Manhwa fans, and the faster we grow, the faster Part 3 drops. See you in the tower.